Hello and a very welcome to A Accounting Tutorials. We are continuing our series on control accounts. But in this particular video, I want us to look at reconciliation of control accounts. But take note that in the part 1 and 2 of this video, we've already looked at the basic concept of control accounts, the format of both sales ledger control account and purchases ledger control account. And we took a question on how to determine the closing balance of the two control accounts. But sometimes, after preparing the control account, the closing balance that we will ascertain might be different from the closing balance on the ledger account, that is the individual ledger account. When I talk about the individual account, I'm talking about the individual debtors and creditors account. Sometimes it becomes different because a control account, it is a summary of all entries made in the individual account. Then this means that in preparing the control account, the closing balance that we will ascertain is supposed to be the same as the total of the individual balances in the ledger account. Is that okay? So if they are not the same, then we have to reconcile. That is why it becomes very prudent and necessary for us to learn how to reconcile the control account with regards to the individual account. When we talk of reconciliation of control account, it is very simple. It is a means of ensuring that the entries in the sales and purchases ledger agrees with the entries in the control account. In other words, when we talk about reconciliation of control account, it means that the process of ensuring that the total of the closing balance of all debtors and creditors accounts agrees with the control account closing balance. Is that okay? To really understand this, let me take you through this concept. We have three types of ledgers. We have the general ledger, the sales ledger, and then the purchases ledger. So our focus here is on the sales ledger and the purchases ledger. These two ledgers are considered as a personal ledger. So with personal ledgers, they are categorized into two. We have the sales ledger and we have the purchases ledger. Good. This sales ledger is also known as the debtors ledger. So another name for this is DL, debtors ledger. And another name for this is CL, that is creditors ledger. This sales ledger keeps records of credit customers, people we sold goods to on credit. So these people that we sold goods to, or organization we sold goods to on credit, we call them debtors. So all debtors accounts are found in the sales ledger. On the other hand, people that businesses buy goods from on credit are our suppliers, and these people are what we call creditors. So these creditors accounts are found in the purchases ledger. So at the close of the period, we prepare account we call a control account to control the total of these individual debtors accounts and the creditors account. So for sales ledger, we prepare what we call a sales ledger or debtors ledger control account. Good. This way. Then for debts, we also prepare what we call the purchases ledger or the creditors ledger control account. This way. Good. I said that the sales ledger control account, it is the summary of all the individual debtors accounts in the sales ledger. Is that okay? This simply means that at the close of the period, if you had a balance brought down of 10,000 on the sales ledger control account, we should have a total balance of 10,000 on the total of the individual accounts in the sales ledger. But sometimes they are not the same. The same applies to this. But sometimes when we prepare the control account, the closing balance that we will ascertain might be different from the closing balance of all the individual debtors accounts in the sales ledger. When it happens this way, then we have to reconcile. Is that okay? That is why we have to look at reconciliation of control account. We are reconciling the closing balance of the control account against the individual debtors balance, okay, to make sure that they all agree. So this is the basic concept of reconciliation of control accounts. But also note that I said this balance, sometimes they are not the same. There is a reason for that, and the basic reason is as a result of errors, human errors. So the errors may be either an overstatement or an understatement of an amount. So when this happens, the difference will not be the same, so we have to reconcile. So let's look at the format of the sales ledger control account, the corrected one, and the reconciliation of the individual debtors account with that of the control account. Okay, so after looking at the format, then we take the practice question and solve it together to enhance our understanding on how to reconcile control account. So we have to look at the format of reconciliation of debtors balance with the control account balance. Okay, and that of the sales ledger control account balance, the reconciliation one. Good. So we are trying to reconcile, meaning that we are trying to make sure that the balance on the individual debtors account or the individual debtors balance agrees with that of the control account balance. Is that okay? Very good. In a typical reconciliation question, the question will give you the balance, okay, the balance of the debtors, the individual debtors account, the uncorrected one. Good. So we say that we begin with balance as per question. The balance as per question. It will be given to you straightforward in the question. Good. The next thing to do is to add all errors. I said the reason why the closing balance may not be the same is as a result of errors. Is that okay? So all errors that tends to reduce the individual debtors balance should be added. Is that okay? Good. So we add all errors that reduces the individual debtors balance. But take note that we are reconciling the individual debtors balance against sales ledger control account. Okay, we also have a reconciliation of creditors balance against the purchases ledger. That will be done in our subsequent video, but for now our focus and the question is on how to reconcile debtors balance against the sales ledger control account. So there are several errors that reduces the individual debtors balance, and I will not write them, but I will mention them. So all items that's supposed to be debited to a normal individual debtors account, if they are not recorded, it will reduce the debtors balance. Is that okay? And all items that are supposed to be credited to a normal debtors account, if they are overstated, it will reduce the debtors balance and it should be added. For instance, when there is a credit sales omitted, so a credit sales omitted, let me list some. So credit sales omitted. When a credit sale is not recorded, it will reduce the debtors balance. If decided check not recorded, it will reduce debtors balance. If cash refund to debtors is not recorded or omitted, it will reduce the debtors balance. If discounts allowed overcast, it will also reduce the debtors balance. So let's say discount allowed overcast, it will also reduce. So let's say these are the two items, but there are several errors that we intend to reduce the individual debtors balance. But take note that this is very important. In reconciling the individual debtors balance with that of the control account balance, any errors that affect the individual debtors should be reconciled in the reconciliation of individual debtors accounts. And any error that affects the control account itself should be corrected in the sales ledger control account. So if an error affects the control account, it should be corrected in the control account. If an error affects the individual debtors balance, it should be corrected in the reconciliation of individual debtors balance with the control account balance. It should be corrected over here. Is this clear? Good. The next thing to look at is to less. After adding all errors that reduces the individual debtors balance, the opposite is true for this. So we should also less all errors that may increase or that increases the individual debtors balance. Very good. And there are several errors that may reduce or that may tend to increase the individual debtors balance. There are several errors. One is that if a return invoice or any item that's supposed to be credited to a normal debtors account, if they are not recorded or if they are omitted, it will increase the debtors balance and we have to less it. Okay, or any item that's supposed to be debited to a normal debtors account, and if they are overstated, they will in turn increasing the debtors balance. So we have to do what? We less it. So we have several items. So I'll talk about, let's say, return invoice omitted. So return invoice, it is omitted, meaning it is not recorded at all. It will increase the debtors balance. Let's say a credit sales. This credit sale is overcast. So credit sales overcast. It will do what? It will increase the debtors balance. Let's say a discount allowed not recorded. Discount allowed not recorded. It will increase the debtors balance and we have to subtract it. So the total of this, we will put it here, then we subtract it from this total and arrive at the final balance. Is that okay? And this final balance is the revised balance as per corrected sales ledger control account. It will be the revised balance as per the corrected control account balance. So I will say a revised balance. A revised balance as per the corrected control account balance. So I'll say control account balance. So the balance we will ascertain here, it will be the same as the balance over here. So it will be a revised balance as per the corrected control account balance. Is that okay? So one thing I just want you to understand is that any error that will reduce the individual debtors balance should be added to the balance as per the question or balance from the question. And any error that tends to increase the individual debtors balance should be also subtracted. There are several errors. It is up to you to understand how the errors will affect the debtors account, the individual debtors balance. So you can kindly watch my video on correction of errors to enhance your understanding on how errors affect these individual transactions. So after that, let's also look at the format of the sales ledger control account. This format is the corrected sales ledger control. So I would say corrected or the adjusted. I'm talking about the adjusted sales ledger control account or the corrected one. And the format of this is very simple. You know that for sales ledger control account is the same as the debtors control account, debtors ledger control account, and they have a normal debit balance. So the balance brought down or balance from the question, as per question, will be recorded at the debit side. The debit side, because they have a natural debit balance, and any error corrected will also come. Errors corrected, I will explain. And errors corrected will also appear at the credit side. Errors corrected will also appear here, and I will explain. Any errors that reduces the sales ledger control account balance should be recorded at the debit side. Any error that reduces. So any error that reduces the sales ledger control account should be debited to this account. And any error that tends to increases the sales ledger control account should also be credited. Is that okay? So what are the errors do you think it will reduce this balance? What are the errors do you think it will reduce this balance? And what are the errors do you think it will increase this balance? Think of it. When we are solving the practice question, you really understand the errors very well. Good. So after passing this entry, then we have to close this account. So in closing the account, we will have the totals to be here. The totals to be here. So the balance CD will be here. And this balance is the revised one. The revised balance. So you have another balance brought down, and this balance brought down is also the revised one. And this revised balance I'm talking about here must be the same as the revised balance we ascertained on the reconciliation of the debtors balance. This balance should be the same as the balance we had on the corrected sales ledger control account. So basically, this is how the format of the reconciliation of the debtors balance with control account balance and that of the corrected sales ledger control account balance looks like. So now in the subsequent video, we are going to take the practice question to solve to determine the revised balance of these two accounts. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, I will encourage you to click on the subscription button, turn on your notification bell so that any moment I upload any new video, you get notified on your devices. So until we meet in our next video, I think it is bye for now.